Hello and welcome once again to Breakfast All Day. I am Christy and that is Matt and that is Alonso. Next up for us is a very sexy, gothic, romantic thriller called Carmilla. It's the thriller in Carmilla and Matt will tell you about it.
Okay, so first of all, this is not the Carmilla movie, which I had watched the trailer for, which is based off some like web series from the past few years, which is modern day sexy vampire lesbian story. This is a gothic sexy lesbian vampire story just called Carmilla. Laura is a young girl who is living alone on an estate. Her father and a governess, because her mother died when she was younger, is very excited about a friend that's going to come and stay, who then at the last minute has to cancel because she's taken very, very ill. And then another girl shows up whose name, well, she doesn't have a name. And Laura gives her a new name, Carmilla. And Carmilla may or may not be somehow connected with the other girl's illness. And there becomes a very obsessive relationship between the two of them. And things get weird. This is a gothic vampire story that was written 27 years before Dracula. And it's very moody, very tense. It's definitely a slow burn, beautifully shot. It feels a little bit, it's certainly, I'm glad we watched The Wicker Man a few weeks ago because it feels like, without being as quite as intense, but it's kind of got that undercurrent of dread a little bit.
Well, it actually kind of reminded me of Heavenly Creatures, the Peter Jackson movie, where you have these two sort of pubescent girls kind of like getting into each other's heads and creating this sort of world unto themselves. Obviously, in this case, one of them is very much kind of driving that train, and we have to sort of wonder what her motivations are and what's really going on there. But yeah, this was written and directed by Emily Harris, and there have been a lot of different screen incarnations of Carmilla, and like you said, it predates Dracula. It is this sort of like iconic kind of lesbian vampire in fiction. And this version seems to be very much kind of clued into a sort of young girl's budding sexuality. So you have these two actresses, Hannah Ray as Lara, and then Devrim Lingnau as Carmilla, and they both look like they're not older than 15 or so. And while this isn't an intensely sexual film, it is very intimate, and there is a level of eroticism just in terms of the way they look at each other and the way they touch each other, and like the whispers and that kind of thing. You're really being just like laser focused, and there's this whole notion of like, we get an impression before Carmilla arrives that like there's a lot of repression going on. The governess punishes Laura for being left-handed and for stealing her father's anatomy books and thinking about like the body and stuff like that. And so there's this, it's that whole sort of like ripe for, sexual explosion because there's so much tamping down going.
Yeah, one of the first things we see is that her arm is being tied behind her back in a really secure way with like pieces of material, and she's forced to like go pick flowers with only her right hand. And
right.
I didn't realize they were trying to dissuade her from using her left hand because it was like
sinister. Yeah, that was a thing.
Literally sinister.
They used to like slap, I mean, in the 20th century in this country, they would slap kids like pencils out of their hands and make them use their right hand.
This reminded me a lot of My Summer of Love.
Oh, okay,
Emily
yeah.
Blunt, the same kind of thing where it's like two young women who are like seemingly different, but they have this incredible instant chemistry with each other. And it's like in the idyllic countryside, and it feels like they're just in this bubble that's made just for them. And it's, whether or not there is a romantic element to any of these stories, it very much captures the intensity of, a best girlfriend when you are that age and needing each other. And back then there was no texting. Now you can like be on the phone with your best girlfriend all night, or you can text or send funny little videos to each other. But here is like they're having to sneak into one another's rooms and like go running through the meadows holding hands and playing with each other hair.
It kind of reminded me of Picnic at Hanging
so,
Rock too.
Oh, it also reminded me of Eliza Hittman's "It Felt Like Love."
Oh, okay.
From in an aesthetic way, like the dreamy kind of fact that the sound design is so weird and vivid, and it's like the bugs crawling through the dirt
the
and
earthworms,
the worms. There's like super close-ups of like worms like writhing their way through the mud.
Bugs eating the flowers, the leaves on flowers.
I was afraid of worms, Roxanne.
I interpreted that as like when you are in love, right? Like when you fall in love for the first time, especially when it is this kind of new, exciting, intense adolescent love, like all your senses are heightened, right? Everything feels that much more exciting and new and fresh and alive. But also, isn't that sort of a vampire thing too, where like, or it can be a vampire thing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
where you
where
hear things more
augmented,
intensely. Your senses are heightened.
And it also kind of captures this notion of like nature itself being this sort of carnal devouring force, you know? But yeah, no, I think with like when I was thinking about Picking a Hanging Rock, it was more like you were saying, the aesthetic quality of it, the sort of the kind of the dreaminess and the tactile, you know, sense of nature and natural phenomena surrounding these girls who are otherwise being sort of pressed into these very kind of, you know, crisp binding outfits, you know. I think this is really fascinating.
I was a little surprised, but like Tobias Menzies in this, and there's some background with him and the governess, right? Because she's got this it's like she tries to tell Laura, oh, I did something in my past and I regretted it. And like that the movie doesn't explain it. There's also a really, really great Easter egg in that, if I remember correctly, he's Dr. Renfield.
Yes.
Oh.
Cute.
Fun.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it.
The last shot, holy shit. The last shot of this movie gave me chills. You must pay attention. Hang with it to the very last second until the screen goes dark. You've got to watch it because it's so important. It's so beautifully done. It gave me chills, and it makes you rethink everything that you just watched prior to that. So, and the actress who plays Carmilla, what do we say her name? Devrim Lingnau, has this really like otherworldly quality about her. She's German, and she has these like bright blue eyes and this great bone structure, and it makes her almost like this otherworldly kind of figure, which makes sense.
She's almost fey, right?
But she's like menacing and totally beguiling, all
seductive,
at once. And she's got a fascinating presence. And then Hannah Raine is, you know, a lovely young woman, but they make her seem like kind of intentionally plain, like much more plain than she actually is, to make Carmilla seem that much more exotic by comparison.
Sure.
This is really intense. It's a quiet film, but it's intensely quiet, or quietly intense. Quietly intense.
Either way.
I really, really dug it. It's beautiful and strange, and I did not know where it was going, although it definitely has, as we mentioned, some kind of precedent that it's similar to. I'm saying 8. We're ready to do numbers? I'm going to say 8.
Yeah, I'm right up there, 7.8 for me.
8.
Okay.
Oh, no, I said 8 also, actually.
We can all just say 8.
We'll just all say 8. Why not?
Let's all say 8. I don't know where Carmilla's streaming.
It is on, I know in like locally for Los Angeles, it's on the Lemley Theater site.
Oh, good.
But if you go to Film Movement, I believe they have a list of theaters around the country that they're streaming it through. Again, this is one of those deals where you can select a theater that you want to support in your own part of the country, or a nonprofit like a film festival or something, or just, you know, pick one at random from somewhere else, and you can rent it through them, and they'll get part of the proceeds.
Support the cinema.
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you for watching. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Now would be a great time to join up at our Patreon, patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Lots of fun, exclusive content for our members. This week, we will be reviewing the film that was selected our members from a list of films from the late Joel Schumacher.
Joel Schumacher.
They voted. We have no choice but to comply with. So we're watching Flatliners from 1990. We have a review of that this week. So that'll be exclusively on Patreon if you want to check that out. Patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.